Kindred Spirits. So today I'm working on an 1890 shirtwaist. I have dubbed it the Seafoam shirtwaist because it just looks like waves to me. And the trim that I want to pick out is, I think in my mind, going to be white. And I thought I'd take you along on the sewing process with me. So I've already prepped all the pieces. I'll show you what I do to prep pieces, making pattern as well as how I prep my pieces once I go to cloth at a later date. But right now I'm just going to baste all my pieces together because they are 2 layers thick because the fabric is so sheer. So this is a step I often want to skip, but it's really important. I tend to want to skip it because I want to start sewing things together and really seeing progress. But because the layers can be so finicky, when you go to sew them together, especially working with 2 layers of cloth, there's too much chance of slipping. So this is a really important step to be making sure that your finished product is going to be spot on and it's not going to be off in any of the measurements. So originally I was sticking all my pins in the pin cushion and being super neat, but I kind of got lazy as well as was just done with the pin cushion, so I got out that bowl and just was putting all my pins in that bowl, and I can put them away later. I tend to be somebody who wants to work smart, not hard, and I don't mind putting things away a little bit later if I can finish up on a piece of the project that I'm working on in that moment, and putting the pin straight into the pin cushion just takes a lot of time, especially as I'm taking things out of the fabric as I go, and I think it just speeds things up. So with everything now basted and all the pieces ready to go, we can get to finally sewing things together. This is when I start seeing results and I feel like things start coming together and I can really see what the shirt's gonna look like, and it's very exciting for me. So I'm making sure to pin well. I'm pinning about every ½ inch just so that I make sure nothing is slipping, especially with the shoulders. They're really important to the fit of the garment when it's all finished. It's really important to take your time in each step. I tend to be a bit slapdash, and I realize that that's not the best when doing a project that requires a good fit. And as Howell said in Howl's Moving Castle, Michael, don't be slapdash. Read the spell all the way through. Make sure that you're doing it correctly, and don't be like me. So I'm quickly just zipping those through my sewing machine. I am doing a little bit of a larger stitch because I know that these might not be quite correct on the fit of the shoulder, and I'm going to need to do a little bit of fitting on my mannequin. Before I pop it on my mannequin, however, to make sure the shoulders fit correctly, pressing is a really important step. Making sure you're pressing along the seam line, both on the inside and the outside of the fabric, ensures that you get a good fit, even if there's some editing that needs to be done. Pressing makes a huge difference, and until I started pressing really well and taking the time to do that, I always saw that my end product wasn't as crisp as I wanted it to be, and this really makes the difference. Especially given the crispness of those pin tucks, you really want everything else to be crisp as well. It just will show if you don't do it. And pressing, make sure that all of your seams look crisp and the finished product looks really, really slick. So now I'm taking the piece over to my mannequin. The reason I knew that I needed to do some editing on the shoulders was because I made both of the pattern pieces separately. So the front yoke I made for another shirt that I did before this, and I wanted the back to be slightly different than the shirt that I did before. So I patterned this piece secondarily, and even though I matched the pattern pieces up to each other to make sure that they were like the same width and everything, I knew how it was going to sit on the shoulder may not be quite correct because I didn't put these pieces through the fabric stage that I start with normally before making a paper pattern. So I knew the fit wasn't going to be quite correct and I was going to need to mess with it before finishing with the shoulder. So now that I know where the shoulder wants to sit, I am using these quilting clips that my mentor gave me to mark out where I have the shoulder sitting. These are really great because I don't want to pin these yet. I want to flip over the fabric and pin them. So I'm just going to use a fabric marker to mark out where the shoulder needs to sit, pin them, and then resew them. So now with that done, I am going to run my gathering string on the shirring of the shirt. I know a lot of people do this on their sewing machine, but I don't like how the gathers come out when I do that. So I am just running it by hand, and I find I get a lot more control that way. I'm using a thicker thread that's often used for quilting, and I am just running that along right around my seam line, so I'm actually doing the gather right on my seam line, and I'm doing a pretty fine stitch, about I'd say a 1/16, maybe an 1/8 of an inch wide, and that gives me the control I want in those gathers. So the first thing I'm doing is just pinning out where the flat parts are that aren't going to be gathered. I'm going to sew those up first and then do the gathers. And I often like to have that on my mannequin when I'm doing the gathers to see how the gathers are sitting on the bust. So doing the gatherings on the mannequin, it lends itself really well to the control I want in my gathers. I want to make sure that they're really well placed over the bust and that each of the ripples in the fabric sit how I want them to, and I don't get the same control when I'm doing it on a table. So I'm also going to pin out the sides and pin the shirring to the back and sew that up. That way when I have it pinned to the mannequin, I know how much room I have and make sure that the sides don't get pulled in too tight. So I'm just going to quickly sew up the straight lines, and then we get to take the shirt to the mannequin, which is the fun part. Now with the shirt on the mannequin, I can pin the shirt into place where I don't want anything shifting, and I can begin to make those gathers on the mannequin. The reason I do this is, well, I'm kind of a busty lady, and I want the ripples of the shirt to be flattering, and depending on how sometimes gathers sit, especially on somebody who's a more heavy set person like I am, it can be kind of unflattering. So I want to make sure these sit really nicely, and I think it's just worth taking the time to do that. I don't really do a great job on taking my time on stuff because I do want to see results, but I've learned my lesson over time that this is really important, and how things sit makes difference. And you can see I'm just testing there to make sure that I like, once like a skirt is on, I like how everything's being held in place and how the ripples look. And I'm pretty satisfied with that. It looks good. I think with a waistband on and with a skirt over it, it will look fabulous. And I'm really excited to pick out trim to put on it as well. That's going to be the fun part. I actually don't have it yet. I have to go to the store. I decided to make the full shirt, and then I can take it to the store and find what I think goes really well with the shirt. So that's going to be really fun to go find something that I haven't even imagined yet. I know a lot of people tend to fully plan out their pieces ahead of time so that they have everything together and they know what they need to do. My pieces act a lot more in my mind like a piece of art, so I don't always have everything planned out from the beginning, and I kind of let the fabric and the shirt speak to me and tell me what they want to be as I go. Everything's based off of 1898 delineator magazines that I look at, so everything I'm doing is based on the Victorian styles, but I kind of tend to mix and match, and I don't think that's bad because any woman sewing at home or a seamstress, they're gonna do the same thing. They're gonna do what's flattering for their customer or do what's flattering for their body type, and they're gonna say like, oh, I like this shirt, but I don't love the sleeves, or, you know, I want, it looks like this is gathered, but I want tucks instead. And I think that that's just really true to how a lot of people sew. And for me, these are a lot more like an art project, and I like to kind of see the magic work as I go, and it feels very special to have a piece that kind of told me what it wanted to be. So now I'm doing all that pressing again, making sure I have all the nice seams and everything is really crisp. From here, after I press it all out, I am going to serge all the edges. These clothes are going to be pretty much my full-time clothes, with a few exceptions. I still have modern clothes, obviously, but I like how these look better on me, and I feel prettier when I'm in them. So I want all of my clothes to be really strong because I know they're going to get worn a lot and they're going to get washed a lot. Not as much as modern clothes. I tend to try to be more gentle because it takes me a lot of time to make these, so I want to make sure they're well cared for. But a lot of these I make in mind of actually throwing them in the washing machine because I don't have a ton of time to hand wash everything. So there are pieces I hand wash, but some of these I am expressly making with the thought that I am going to throw them in the wash, and I will hang them to dry, but I know they're going to have to go through the tumble wash. So also, shout out to my mentor who is letting me long term borrow this serger. I cannot afford a serger right now, and this is a lifesaver, especially when I'm not planning on putting in either a lining and everything is enclosed, or I have a fabric that is going to unravel if I don't serge it. Especially the lining or like the inner fabric in this one is on the edges, it's more of a ribbony fabric and it's just coming apart as soon as you pull it. So this is really helpful for me. And with that, look, it's a shirt. Oh my gosh, every time I do this process and take fabric to a 3D object and I see it all come together, I feel like I'm doing magic. Sometimes I still don't like believe that I know how to do this, and it's just really cool to see it go from 2D to 3D. So next time we get to put on sleeves and a collar and a waistband and finish this piece up. And then I might take you on an adventure to find the trim for this girl. I'm so excited. She looks like a wave, and I'm excited to give her those wave tops and give her some sea foam. It's going to be lovely when she's all finished. So until then, happy sewing, and I'll see you later.